Goldman Sachs is dumping stocks. I'm your host, Steve Van Metre, and thanks for joining me today. And Goldman Sachs systematic quantum machines are about to dump $47 billion in global equities this week. Let's take a look at where we head over to Goldman, who has in their daily report that they estimate their systematic funds sold $15 billion on August 31st, the month end. If you're wondering what drove stocks down late Friday, well, maybe it was Goldman. And they estimate over the next week that if stocks don't even move at all, that their machines are going to sell $47 billion in global equities with $12 billion on the S&P 500. And over the next month, if the tape just stays flat, if stocks don't budge, they're dumping $85 billion of stocks, $22 billion out of the S&P. And if the market keeps going down, which it likely is if they're going to keep dumping stocks, well, in the down tape, they're selling $109 billion or $20 billion out of the S&P 500 in what could be a tidal wave of selling that sends stocks lower. But it gets even worse because they know that even their bond selling machine, they're going to kick in too. They were selling bonds last week as well in a flat tape. They have $31 billion for bonds for sale, $21 billion in an up tape, and $36 billion in a big down move. They sold $57 billion worth of global government bonds in the past week, and that's a lot. But keep this in mind, as we move through the month, the skew flips back to the upside, which is interesting because as we get closer to the FOMC meeting, what's going to happen is Goldman's machines are going to sell, and then flip back and start buying. Isn't that interesting? Of course, Goldman's machines, as we know, are lagging some of the other quantum models. So if Goldman flips back to a buy, that means we're going to see a lot of other machines buying, perhaps ahead of the FOMC meeting. But what does this look like for the market? Well, let's take a look at the charts, as we like to do every Sunday, and look at the technicals and momentum. Here we see the S&P 500 symbol SPY. Momentum remains negative. You know, the relative strength indicator, or RSI, that's a momentum indicator, is sitting at 35.6. A number of below 40 means momentum to the downside. We see the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence strategy. It is also momentum, and it's got a negative cross. So that's bad news. Momentum Timer Pro, my proprietary report that aggregates 3 momentum signals and puts it across a daily signal, a 1 month, 3 month, and 6 months. It's got 5 consecutive daily sell signals telling you, hey, you should have gotten out. And if you're a trader, this report is telling you right now, hey, no position. And the next downside target, 381.50. But let's take a look at the charts, because that may be generous if Goldman is on this big dumping spree. And here we can see the SPY. What are we noting here? What is Michael Burry talking about in our video on Saturday? What looks like a beautiful topping pattern. Here you see the volume profile over the last 2 years. The most selling coming right at this mark above here, notably where retail was buying. Here you can see the move down. Friday's big move lower. Where do we see 381 being our next move? There's a little bit of volume sticking out here. Whereas the major support now is back at 373, the June lows. That needs to hold. Traders want to see a double bottom here. So if you're looking to get in, probably best just to hang tight. If you've gotten stopped out and you're a trader, again, wait. If that June low breaks, watch out below. Let's take a look at the weekly chart, because what's notable here is we talked about how if the RSI gets up into this low 50s, which it did, and rolls over, which it is, that's consistent of a bear market. The MACD is starting to roll over. It's still positive, but that is starting to happen as well. And again, this all puts into context what this big selling wave of Goldman can do to your portfolio. And that's what's interesting. You know, we look at this from a trading perspective. And if you're a trader, you kind of want to watch out, hang tight, and maybe even subscribe to Momentum Timer Pro. I'll put a link up here in the corner, and there's a link in the description for Markets Insider Pro, where it's bundled with Jeff Snyder's research and Tracy's shoe charts. So check that out. It's free still for a limited time. Let's look at what this means for tech, because, you know, Goldman's saying they're selling global equities. And in that pool, it's going to be tech stocks as well. Here we have the Invesco QQQ Trust. The RSI also as negative. Momentum is down. It's below 40. It's at 34.8. MACD has a negative cross. Momentum Timer Pro, 9 consecutive sell signals. We noted last week it too got stopped out of its position, had a nice upside move there. Next downside target of 282. So we notice, broadly speaking, the 1, 3, and 6 month, both on the S&P and the Nasdaq, momentum's been positive, but these are going to fade. These 9 days of sell signals are going to push these longer term signals down. Let's take a look at the chart here of the Nasdaq and see where it's likely to go. And look at that 2-year volume profile. Same issue, notably retail buying up here, sellers all taking advantage of this. So all these machines and all these big institutions selling into all that retail buying. Next leg down, look for that June lows to tag that number and hold. If that holds, there's going to be another move higher. Again, if you're a trader, you're looking for that. Those June lows blow out, well, watch out below. The market's heading lower. How about the bond market? Because we do know that Goldman's got some more selling to do before it's done. But what's happening here from a technical perspective is yields bounce off of support. Now the view is they're breaking out and new all-time highs. Maybe not so much. We'll see if that's the case, because one thing that I can tell you is looking at these other CTA positionings, all these other firms that I have access to their data, they're either done selling, they're already max short, or they're in a position where they're so far away from their next sell signal that's not going to happen. So Goldman appears to be one of the last ones on the list to sell. But we'll see what this means for the bond market as the iShares 20-year Treasury bond ETF momentum's negative. RSI is at 37 again, that's negative. MACD is a negative cross, 17 consecutive sell signals, and that's brought that 1 month signal down to none. It's brought the 6 month signal down to none. It's brought that 3 month signal down to minimum. You may remember about a month ago, this thing was about to take off from a momentum perspective, and then of course that big wave of selling hit. No position here. Next upside target sits at 115. Downside target retested the lows at 108. Let's check the chart here, because there's a lot of potential upside if TLT holds. Now remember, Goldman was selling G10 bonds. It's not just treasuries, not just long end, not just front end. It's a broad-based basket of selling across the G10. Let's zoom in here. We can see that 6 month window. Buyers sitting here below, sellers sitting here above. We know a lot of these selling are those machines because they came in, they started buying this wave here, and then momentum petered out against that 100-day moving average, and that led stocks or led bond prices to head back down. Now, is that unusual? Well, you might ask, and the answer is no, it actually isn't. When we see it bounce off the 100-day moving average like that, and here is a great example, it kind of comes up and gets near it and gets rejected. It makes another low there, and there's another one in here somewhere that we can find that does that. Here it is. Comes up to the 100-day moving average, just gets above it, still gets rejected, comes back down right into those lows, ends up making a new all-time low right into there. And then, as you can see, once all those sellers have got wiped out, a big move higher comes for the bond market. All right, let's take a look at gold and see what's going on in the gold market. We see that it is bearish as well. Momentum's negative. RSI is 37.5. MACD negative cross, so both are to the downside. Momentum Time Pro, 10 consecutive days of sell signals. No position as of right now. Looking at the next upside target of 161 to 162. Next downside target of 155. Notably, the longer term signals are almost at none, and a minus 10 on the daily count, telling you that, hey, there's more downside risk for gold, but there's a potential bottom that comes from that. So we note that when momentum signals get pretty negative, it's over. What do we see on the RSI? It's bouncing right off oversold territory. MACD headed lower, and it's trying to hold this bottom right along here. 1, 2, 3, 4 bottoms over the last what do we have on here? 2-year chart. If we zoom out, though, the picture, not so pretty. You can see it starts to look like a topping pattern. You say, no, well, maybe it's a bottom for me. Well, look at silver. What happened with silver? It did that same sideways bottom. Everyone's hoping, and breakdown. Let's take a look at the gold futures real quick. What do we know? 1687 is support, breaks that, and perhaps there is a move down and a retest of that point like we saw with silver. After that, it's bottoms up. It's going down with gold. 1300 or 1286 specifically, ton of volume there. A lot of people don't see that in play. looks like a top to me. Let's take a look at our trade of the week. It's now consistent. This is a follow-up because we haven't gotten any more signals. So we stay with the dollar as our trade RSI at 70.5. It's now oversold. MACD's got a positive cross. You'll note on 8/16, the daily flipped to a buy, saying that you should add to your position, or if you've been wanting to get in, there was your opportunity to get back in, holding an initial stop level. The report recommended a 28.31. Friday's closing up now 29.38, upside target 112 on DXI. There is no number I have on UUP because it's never been that high. Next downside target 28.5, notably 14 consecutive daily buy signals. Momentum across the board is positive, and that is indeed what you want. Let's take a look at the dollar, and what do we see here? This beautiful higher pattern here. Broke out, is heading higher, and looks to go even higher than that. Let's go to the weekly, and you can see there's nothing here, but on the DXY, what are we sitting at? 109 on our way to 112, and 112 then perhaps 120, and there's your breakout scenario for the dollar, heading a lot higher, bringing equities down. And of course, the dollar goes up. Eventually, bond prices chase it higher. That's your bull case on bonds. And with that, I'm Steve Van Metre. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being fans. Bye now.